From the studios at Sapere Law and Mediation, this is the Splitting Smart podcast. We're here to help you resolve divorce and family disputes out of court with practical, insightful, and real-world strategies. I'm Kelly Bennett, your host, with over 30 years in the family law, mediation, and negotiation trenches. Saving you time, money, and stress, each episode breaks down tools and tips to help you approach family law disputes with clarity, with privacy, and efficiency. Are you in a family law quagmire? Well, you're in the right place. Let's get you on the smartest, fastest path forward. The information presented in this podcast is not intended to be legal advice. It's for informational and entertainment purposes only. For legal advice, call a great lawyer. Whether you call Sapere Law or someone else, legal advice happens when the lawyer is given the opportunity to hear your specific situation and give you advice based on your unique facts. Now, let's start the show. Well, hey, welcome back to the Splitting Smart podcast. Today, we are continuing our discussion about victim habits and how to disrupt them. The last episode, if you didn't catch it, you're going to want to go back and look at it, because this is the part 2 to that episode, where we looked for a moment at this book I wrote called Victim Is Not Your Name, which is about helping you not identify yourself permanently as a victim when bad, traumatic things happen to you, particularly family law issues, divorce, breakups, things of that nature, and even more catastrophic things. This is about how to not let those things define you and slide into what I call the 6 victim habits. And then there are 6 strategies for disrupting those victim habits so you can replace those patterns of behavior with new behaviors to get you out of the victim mode and on the path to remembering who you really are, rediscovering your true identity, and because it's not being a victim, no matter what has happened to you. The link to the book, if you'd like to pick it up, is in the show notes, and it's on Amazon. All you have to do is Google Victim Is Not Your Name. Today, we are looking at concepts that if you have the book, you'll want to follow along. This is out of chapter 9, where we're talking about the 6 disruptors to victim habits. But first, let's do a recap of what those 6 victim habits are, in case you hadn't seen the prior episode. I'm just going to list them here, so you're going to want to pick up the book and go back and listen to the last episode so you really have a complete understanding of what we're talking about here. So the 6 primary victim habits are: 1, the cheap thrill of attention, where in recounting what trauma has happened to you, to friends and family, and garnering a lot of empathy and support, we want to live there and we become addicted to that attention. Number 2 is self-imposed helplessness. This is where no matter what the path forward is, no matter what solutions are presented, you find a reason why those can't possibly work for you. And what that does is it keeps you in a state of helplessness. That's self-imposed helplessness. Playing small, being afraid to take risks to grow and get on to the next level. Sometimes we get really comfortable in the victim mode, and all of a sudden we're risk averse. That's playing small and not seeking out bigger and better opportunities because we're afraid of change or the risk that's involved. Next is get them before they get you. This is where you are afraid of intimacy. You look at vulnerability as weakness, and you keep people away. A lot of us have been there where we've said at one time or another, I'm never going to let somebody get that close to me again because I don't want to be hurt like that again. That's a good example of get them before they get you, and you become a little gruff and hard to get along with once somebody starts to come too close in a relationship. And then the 5th one we have is the blame game. No personal accountability for the results in your own life. It's always somebody else's fault or a circumstance's fault. And that you can't live there for very long because you stay stuck. And then the last one is the victim habit of can't say no, no boundaries. This is the people pleaser, somebody who is afraid of saying no and says yes to everybody and everything, every request, regardless of whether it's viable or not, regardless of how exhausted you are, because you're seeking affirmation and love and approval from other people. Those are the 6 victim habits. So today I want to talk to you about the 6 disruptors that can basically jerk a knot in your tail and help you get out of these victim habits. These are strategies that will help you disrupt those negative patterns and reclaim your own empowerment. This is what it's really about. All right, so let's jump into disruptor number 1. This is all about transforming your environment. Disruptor number 1 is transform your environment. Well, the role of physical space in connection with shaping your mental clarity and focus is huge. Notice what's happened when you walk into an office or a house, your home, a bedroom that is completely in order, is neat and clean, it's organized, you can find everything. How do you feel when you walk into a room like that? Versus when you walk into a room, maybe you've had a long day at work and you come home, and if you've got children that are messies and they've made a whole mess of the kitchen and there's dishes everywhere piled up in the sink and you're exhausted, how does that make you feel? Pretty cruddy, right? It sucks just the energy out of the room. So the role of your physical space on your mental clarity and on your focus, your ability to focus on hard things and good things and productive things and challenges and opportunities, it really gets suppressed when you are in a physical environment that doesn't support that good feeling of empowerment and control. So this is about cleaning up your act. Don't accept a messy environment. What are your action steps on this? Well, this is common sense. Declutter, organize, create a supportive home and work environment. If you have a nice, clean office, don't allow your home to be that way. Just remember what that feels like to be in a controlled, clean environment. And if you've got a bunch of kids, start teaching them as well, because this will help them feel better about themselves. Marie Kondo really became popular for her decluttering and organizing method. The KonMari method, which was Marie Kondo, was very popular. And the reason it became so popular is because people started discovering the joy that comes in releasing items out of their lives and having a good, organized environment. There's a reason Marie Kondo became so famous. And then we've seen on all of our home shows that the organizing shows and the decluttering shows and on social media, it's very popular. I bet you Amazon, a huge piece of Amazon's business is in all of their home organization tools that they sell. And I know that becomes so popular on social media. There's good reason for it, because when you transform your environment, it helps you disrupt these victim habits that have been going on. It's hard to maintain them in a nice, controlled, clean environment where all of a sudden you start to feel more empowered. Okay, let's move on to disruptor number 2. This one's called Get Moving. What is Get Moving? Well, you know where I'm going with this, I bet. This is all about physical movement. Well, when we get into the victim habits, it's very common that hand in hand, lethargy comes with it. Depression comes with it. Fatigue comes with it. This is the kind of thing that can easily be disrupted even by just briefly taking a walk down to the mailbox and back. And then the next time you go out, again, go a few steps further and down to the end of the block and then around the block, start moving, start walking, stop sitting and being sedentary. Physical movement combats lethargy and it truly resets your mind. Start practicing it. Duke University did a huge study a number of years ago on exercise and the amount of impact it had on reducing severe symptoms of depression. The evidence is there on the physical benefits to your mind, and your mind is the game to win here when it comes to victim habits. So do me a favor. I challenge you for the next 7 days, 14 days, commit to daily movement. Even if it's just 10 minutes of walking, this will help shift your mental energy. And as you walk, I want you to start noticing how you're feeling. And after you get back from your movement, whether it's going back to the gym, I just say start small, something that is sustainable. So just start walking 10 minutes a day. When you get back from that walk, kind of rest for a minute and notice over the next 15 to 30 minutes how you feel and how you are perceiving things. I think you're going to notice the clouds starting to part quite a bit. And mental clarity is really key to disrupting these victim habits. Okay, number 3. Okay, this is a biggie. There's been a lot on this over the years. I think this is one of the most interesting areas in the sciences, and it's all about rewiring your brain. There is so much study on brain health. I know Dr. Daniel Amen from the Amen Clinics. He's out of Orange County, California. He's become internationally known now. He was the first psychiatrist who started to do brain imaging before treating a brain from a psychiatric point of view. Because his philosophy was, in psychiatry, we're treating an organ. We're the only discipline that treats an organ that we never even look at. And so in his research, the amazing information on what the brain does, how you can retrain it, how you can treat it properly has been really astounding. And this is the kind of thing that is so helpful. And we'll put a link to the Amen Clinic and Dr. Amen's work in the show notes here. But it's impactful because this is the kind of stuff that busts up these victim habits and helps you replace those habits with better patterns of behavior that get you the results you want. Neuroplasticity. The research in this area of neuroplasticity has been astounding over the years. What is it? Well, neuroplasticity is the ability to create new positive thought patterns in your brain. This is resetting it, and you truly can do it. This is not heebie-jeebie stuff. This is scientifically proven. So here's some key strategies. And let me back up for a minute. Why does your brain default to deep negative thought patterns? Well, this is something called negativity bias. You know, our brains are designed to, in caveman days, protect us from danger, right? That's why sometimes if, a car cuts you off and almost crashes into you, you get the shot of adrenaline and your brain all of a sudden is scanning for all threats, right? Negativity bias is our default, where our brain, whether you're conscious of it or not, is constantly scanning for threats to protect you. Well, these days in civilized society, not many of us truly encounter regular threats on a daily basis, but our brains still operate that way. And what we see this translating to these days is there's a tendency to, in any situation, automatically be able to pick out the gaps or the negative pieces of a situation without seeing any of the gains or the positives. It's our default. Well, after a lot of time goes by where you have practiced that or let your brain do that by default, when there truly is no real threat to you, that's what your brain's looking for, right? The caveman brain is looking for real threats to protect you. Well, you get into this habit of constantly seeing the negative in things. And so what they found in neuroplasticity research is that you can engage in certain practices that will help rewire your brain from constantly scanning for the negatives, for focusing on the gaps, to focusing on the gains. It's just a practice. So one way you can do that is by spending time every day intentionally. This is like carved out time that you say, okay, I'm going to intentionally focus on positive experiences. This might look like, all right, what happened yesterday that was good? I'm going to find 3 positive things that I experienced yesterday. And it sounds so simple, and it really is, but it's a practice that's done over time. And what you're doing is you're saying, today, in these moments, we're going to focus on the positive experiences I had yesterday. And they are there. And if you've really been entrenched in the negativity bias, it might take you a little time. Maybe you only come up with one for the day, for the prior day. But as time goes on and you exercise that muscle, it'll get better and better. Also, using gratitude practices to train your brain to notice good things. I'm so thankful for, it can be the most simple things in the world. I'm so thankful for the fact that I had a bed to sleep in last night and I had a blanket to put on me. I'm so thankful that I had a house to come home to, right? I'm so thankful that I have children that are thriving. Whatever it is, from the smallest, practice it, and pretty soon you'll be able to start being grateful for more and more things because you'll start noticing them. There's a book by Dr. Rick Hanson. It's called Resilient. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. But his book is really interesting on this entire concept of rewiring your brain and building its inner strength through neuroplasticity. I really encourage you to take a look at this because think about it. When you rewire your brain to focus on more positive experiences, which then give you the steam and the fuel and the confidence to, and the hopefulness really to jump back into life and look for opportunities. You can't really sustain a lot of these victim habits when you're in this new mindset. So that's why it's so important. So please take a look at rewiring your brain through neuroplasticity. All right, disruptor number 4, rebuild your inner circle. Oh, this is a big one. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of a strong inner circle. It doesn't have to be a big inner circle. But if you haven't surrounded yourself with supportive, inspiring, successful, common sense people, then it's time to look at rebuilding that inner circle. Now, I want to challenge you. Evaluate the inner circle you have right now. Oh, you have one. You might not think you have one, but who are the people that you let in on the most intimate moments of your life? Who are the people that you solicit their opinion on a regular basis? Or maybe they give it to you whether you want it or not. Who are those people who are in your life on a regular basis and they're close to you? I would argue to you that those people should not be there just by whim, that they should be there very intentionally. Your inner circle is your biggest area of influence on you. And you need to be very careful about who's in it, because if you're not careful, you'll find yourself with a few people in your inner circle who are actually perpetuating and helping you stay in these really negative, unproductive victim habits. And, if you've been through a divorce, if you've been through some kind of trauma, serious illness, some really big life challenges, do yourself a favor. You deserve to be out of these victim habits, because I'm here to tell you there's a big life and a big world waiting for you. But a lot of it depends on your mindset and you deciding. So I'm hoping you'll decide. Rebuild your inner circle. Make sure people deserve to be there. Now, how do you evaluate them? I give you a whole list of questions and ways to evaluate them in Victim Is Not Your Name. But here's the most simple approach. Are they uplifting to you, or are they draining? Do they wallow in the drama and thrive, and they want to talk and commiserate with you about how horrible your ex is and how horrible these people are and stay in the negative? They shouldn't be there at all, right? Because what are they adding? Are they uplifting? Are they giving you sage advice, common sense advice, not cray-cray advice? Are they successful people? What kind of relationships do they have? How are they doing in their careers? How do they treat other people? How do they treat themselves? Be really critical of your inner circle. It's okay to have some acquaintances, but don't let the negative Nellies and the toxic folks be privy to you. They don't deserve that, right? You deserve better. All right. What do you want to look for in that inner circle? Honesty, emotional intelligence. And the biggest one, are they adding value? Truly adding value. Rolling into disruptor number 5. This one is all about practicing gentleness. I want you to master practicing gentleness. This is about cultivating a spirit of kindness, not just towards other people. Yes, towards other people. That's important, but also toward yourself. You know, people who are in that get them before they get me mode, and that victim habit in particular, they're often very critical of other people and they're not very nice. Not everybody, but often. Folks who are in that victim habit in particular tend to have a big challenge practicing kindness. And usually, I've found in life and in the many, many people that I've helped through conflict, that the people who are the ugliest, the angriest, the most critical, judgmental, and harsh towards other people are the harshest on themselves. And that's hard to recognize in the moment when you're dealing with somebody because it doesn't feel very good to be in their crosshairs. So practicing gentleness, cultivating that spirit of kindness towards yourself first will help you be kind and gentle towards others. Now, one way you start to practice gentleness is mastering your self-talk, okay? Because mastering your self-talk, how you talk to yourself about yourself and others, is all about disrupting critical thinking patterns. Because before you talk, it starts up here. And so if you've mastered the thinking patterns, right, just what we talked about in the rewiring the brain and learning about neuroplasticity and how that works, that helps you turn the self-talk around. You have negative self-talk, you know how that goes. Usually self-talk is so ingrained that it comes out without you even thinking about it. How often do you call yourself stupid or an idiot or I'm so dumb, I wasn't thinking? Watch that because your words matter. They truly do, because you are directing your brain towards the negative. So use self-talk to impact your ability to disrupt harsh, critical patterns of thinking. Now, I want you to do a little exercise, if you will, after this podcast is over. And that is replace your negative self-labels. I'm so stupid. I'm an idiot. Oh my God, I can't believe that I did that. That was so dumb. Those are all labels that you're giving yourself. Now, I don't think you'd let your children talk about themselves that way, would you? If you hear it, you better interrupt it. It's so important. If there's somebody that you love more than anyone in the world, maybe it's your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your children, and you heard someone else talking to them that way and putting those labels on them, would you think that's okay? I'm going to bet you wouldn't. So why are you tolerating it with yourself? So write down all the negative self-labels that you give yourself, and I want you to write down something that is a positive affirmation that reflects your growth and your resilience, and call yourself that next time. If you catch yourself calling yourself an idiot, stop and say, no, I'm not an idiot. I'm an intelligent, bright, motivated woman. Whatever it is that works for you. Disruptor number 6 is leverage redemptive pain. This is the concept of taking personal pain that you've experienced, and once you've worked your way through it, start using that pain and turn it into a tool to help other people. You know, this is the concept you see in Alcoholics Anonymous, where they have sponsors or they have group meetings, because they are taking the pain of others and encouraging them to be able to turn around and encourage and help one another, especially the sponsors. Maybe you've gone through a bout with a very serious illness. Are you helping others after you've gotten through it, or as you're going through it, that may be just starting that journey, who might be standing in that place you were in 6 months, a year ago, 2 years ago, of loneliness and fear and uncertainty? Leveraging redemptive pain can be incredibly healing, and it's really hard to stay in your victim habits when you take that pain and you start to turn it into a tool. This might be as simple as sharing experiences with others in order to uplift them and guide them when they're at that beginning of facing similar struggles. And here, when we're leveraging redemptive pain, in order to get from the pain place into the this is a tool I'm going to use for good place, usually in that in-between space, in order to get from A to B, there's this concept called forgiveness. Forgiveness is a step towards releasing bitterness, and it's really hard to become a force for good and turn the pain into a tool to help other people if you're still harboring bitterness. This is about redirecting that energy positively. So we can't really get from taking all that pain and trauma and moving it over here into a positive tool to help somebody else who's going through the same thing, unless we've done some of that inside work on forgiveness to release bitterness. I do talk quite a bit in this book on forgiveness. The chapter on forgiveness here is my favorite piece of Victim Is Not Your Name. It's chapter 10, and it's the forgiveness factor. This isn't about being a doormat. It's not being a pushover. It's about giving yourself the greatest gift you can give yourself in the midst of life challenges.
Hey, before we get back to the show, would you like me to serve as your personal mediator? You know, where to help you and your spouse or your soon-to-be ex navigate some pretty important family law issues, deciding things about your kids, how to split up your assets, your debts, all outside the chaos of the court. How do we do that? We do it faster, way more economically, and with absolute civility and confidentiality. If you want to know more, go ahead and hit that link below, and you'll find out how you can connect with me, and we can talk about what's most important to you and your future. Now, back to the show.
All right. Well, those are the 6 disruptors to those victim habits. And I challenge you, pick one of those disruptors. Don't have to do them all, right? Everybody's had something happen, okay? And if you've had something particularly challenging, traumatizing, give it a whirl, would you please? Just pick one of the disruptors and practice it this week. Just give it a try. And it's called a practice. I didn't say master it this week. I said practice it this week. And that's just put it into play. And you'll probably have to keep doing it over and over because it's called practicing. And you'll get better and better at it. And I'd love for you to take that experience after a week of practicing one of these 6 disruptors and share it with somebody that you love and trust to share that with. Even better, if you're willing to be bold, you don't have to get into all the details, but we would love the feedback from you. Leave a comment here in the show. You can leave it on the YouTube channel if that's where you're watching. You can send me a comment, but I'd love your feedback on how that went for you and which one you tried and what you noticed. All right. The victim habits don't have to be a life sentence. They really don't. You really deserve to move past all of that and into the joy of discovering who you really are and get back to your true identity, the identity that was you before all this trauma and challenge happened and disappointments. All right, friends. Well, that's all for now. So until next time, I want you to remember, resolve with intelligence and split smart. We'll see you next time.